Do you think parents should control what websites their children visit on the internet? Oh, that's a tough question. Well, I think my view is that children should be controlled to some extent by their parents as to what websites they visit because children are very young. They're just primary school students, or maybe they're not even primary school students. Perhaps they're only 4 or 5 year olds. And in this case, they just can't tell right from wrong. Maybe they're introduced to porn websites or websites that contain a lot of violence, which is obviously incorrect, right? They shouldn't visit websites like these. So in this case, parents should really control them and prevent them from using such websites. However, they shouldn't be controlled completely because they're human beings too, right? They should have some say in what websites they like to visit. Maybe they want to have a little bit of fun sometimes for like half an hour or 40 minutes every single day, and they should be allowed to do it. So yeah, basically what I think is that this has to be done in moderation. Do you think reading benefits us or not? Yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, I didn't see this coming because I don't suppose anybody in this world who would question the benefits of reading. I believe it is the most important thing that everybody has to do because reading is educational, it's relaxing and enjoyable. Everybody has to read on a daily basis. So, yeah, like I said, there are actually many benefits of reading. And the most important thing is that it allows people to gain a better understanding of various fields in our lives and also in science or many other areas. So, like, in my case, I enjoy learning history and I do read a lot of history books. That allows me to know more about our past. And also, I can kind of get a sense of why things are happening now. And that is all due to reading because it's really important. So yeah, I believe everybody thinks in a similar way. Do you think technology has brought us closer or not? Oh, that's a complicated question because it depends on how you look at it. Because, well, the first thing that comes to mind when you ask me that question is technology has definitely brought us closer together because with the development of social media and, just the internet, for example, we can chat with people from all over the world, anytime, anywhere. Like, in my case, I have many friends from the United States, and I haven't even seen them in person. We got to know each other online. We interact with each other online. I think that's really good. We get to talk with each other about our different cultures and traditions and stuff like that. So in that sense, technology has absolutely brought us closer. However, some people might argue that technology has a role to play in, just bringing people apart. Because now, since every single day we're on the internet all the time, we're on our social media all the time, we don't chat with our friends or family members as much as before. So I believe that's a very big problem. Do you think there will be no teachers to teach students in the future? Well, about the future, I'm not really sure. This is a very tricky question. Well, what I want to say is that I have read quite a few books during the past couple of months about AI, artificial intelligence, that mainly focus on what the future is going to be like. And some of the books say that perhaps in 30 or 40 years, a big proportion of all of teachers will be replaced by robots. Especially teachers that probably teach English or teach languages, not Chinese, not your mother language, because a person's mother tongue is not only the language itself, but also culture and very subtle stuff that can't be taught by robots, at least in the short term. However, when students are learning a foreign language, a second language, for example, then I suppose probably robots will be able to replace teachers in this field because they will be smart enough to teach vocabulary and grammar and practice with the students. So, however, some other books say otherwise. They say that perhaps these teachers won't be able to tell which student is having difficulty with some certain concept or something. I'm really sorry, I can't be sure. and I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Do you think TV will be replaced by computers? Yeah, absolutely. That's what I think. Because if you look at what's going on all over the world, an increasing number of people are beginning to watch anything on the internet, online. I mean, like talk shows, reality shows, and talent shows. Fewer and fewer people still sit in front of their TV sets and watch programs on TV. I mean, like in China, this is a very good example, I think, because in universities, students, I think the majority of university students don't have a TV set in their own dormitory. They just watch anything online. So, yeah, I mean, without a doubt, in the long term, TV will definitely give way to the internet, to the computer. Do you think weather has an influence on people's mood? Yeah, absolutely. I definitely believe so because, well, everybody thinks the same way, right? What I think is that, actually, when we talk about sunny weather, we also have a phrase in English, which is sunny disposition. So if we say that someone has an outgoing personality, we might like to say that this person has a sunny disposition, so he or she likes to laugh, likes to socialize, and something like that. So sunny, yeah, I mean, absolutely, there's, some kind of relationship between the weather and the personality or the mood of a person. Plus, if the weather is not very good, let's say if it's overcast, if it's cloudy, it definitely has a negative influence on how a person feels and thinks on that particular day. Do young adults in your country like to communicate with old people? Honestly, I think it really depends on the person because some people absolutely enjoy communicating with their parents or grandparents, whereas some other people don't like to do it. Maybe it's just because they feel like there's this generation gap between the older generation and them. And maybe when they bring up a topic, like for example, if they want to talk about fashion, if they want to talk about sports or modern technologies, they really find that they have no similar interests in these things with those people that are much older than them. Those senior citizens have no idea what they're talking about, so they can't find any common topic, and then maybe these young people will just lose interest in communicating with their grandparents or just maybe their parents who are in their 50s or 60s. So yeah, like I said before, it really varies from person to person. It's not like everyone is the same. Do young people like to save money? No. Off the top of my head, I really want to say no, because most young people just want to have fun. I mean, those people in their 20s or even early 30s, they're young, they've just graduated from university, and they have, so much time, so many years to enjoy what the world has to offer. I mean, they can just go traveling, and they can go bungee jumping, go snorkeling, and scuba diving, and everything. So, if they make some money, after getting paid at the end of the month, they may just want to spend the money on all of these exciting things to enjoy life. And honestly, in my opinion, enjoyment is probably just the most important thing for young people. And so, yeah, I don't really think young people like to save money. Maybe some people do, but the majority of them don't. Do young people like to watch TV nowadays? Yeah, sure, absolutely. Not only young people, but what I think is that everybody enjoys watching TV because there are just so many interesting things. Fascinating and captivating TV shows on television, no matter where it is in the world. I believe reality shows are very popular. Like, for example, in my country, one of the most popular reality shows is called Running Man, which has been airing for the past, I'm not very sure, I think for the past 5 years already, okay? So all of those celebrities, famous people on this show are hugely famous in China. even some of those famous people who were not very well known when they started being on the show have growing in popularity like gangbusters. Everybody loves watching them, and every Friday evening, everybody just sits on their in their sofa and watches this show. So not only this program, but many other shows are popular too. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, people really enjoy watching TV these days. How can people find reliable friends on the internet? Reliable friends on the internet? Well, honestly, my answer is they can't. Because the internet world, the virtual reality, that's what we call it right now. This is so different from the real world that we live in. Because in the real world, if we want to make friends, we go to a bar or party, and then we meet various people. At least we can see them, right? We can see their faces, so we make a judgment, right? We think to ourselves, okay, this is the person that really attracts me. I want to be friends with this person. Maybe sometimes our decisions are not completely reliable. We can't just, really depend on some of the decisions we make in that moment. The thing is, on the internet is even much worse because we never know who we are talking with. We never know who we are interacting with. We might be thinking that we're talking with a 20-year-old girl, but maybe the person on the other end is a 50-year-old guy who is a pervert. So yeah, we never know. We can never find reliable friends on the internet. How can we improve our memories? God, that's a very tough question. I don't really know because honestly, I don't have a good memory myself. I have a memory like a sieve. But perhaps one thing will be helpful because I remember several months ago I read in a newspaper that if we want to improve our memory, perhaps we can try learning a foreign language. Because I guess the reason is that while learning a foreign language, we have to memorize so many new vocabulary and sentence structures and grammar rules and stuff like that. And this just trains our memory, trains it to be better, I suppose. But I'm not sure if it has worked for me because I've been learning English for the past 10 years. And frankly speaking, I only feel that my memory has gotten worse than 10 years ago. So yeah, I'm not very certain if it's really helpful. Maybe it is, or perhaps it's just not for me. And other ways to improve our memory, I can't really think of anything at the moment, sorry. How do you deal with impolite people? That's the most interesting question I've ever gotten. How do I deal with impolite people? I don't really know. I mean, basically, there are not that many ill-mannered people around me. Probably because I've received a very good education, so most of my friends and colleagues are well educated too, and they always show very good manners, They're not rude or anything. However, now let's suppose that there are some ill-mannered people around me. What I'm gonna do is that I'll just try to get as far away from them as possible. Try not to be close to them. Maybe that's what I do, because basically, now that I think about it, maybe there's nothing I can do about it to let them become a little less impolite. Maybe it's impossible. So I'm sorry. This is a very tough question, and this is the best I can do. How do you feel about the climate in recent years? How do I feel about the climate? Are you trying to ask me about climate change? Because that's something that comes to mind right away after I hear that question. Climate change, or global warming, as everybody called it several years ago. Honestly, I have no idea why people stopped calling it global warming. Maybe it's because in some certain areas, it's actually not becoming warmer, it's becoming colder. Like, if I'm not mistaken, last winter in the United States, in some areas, it was extremely cold. I mean, it was bitterly cold on the East Coast. So, yeah, I mean, that's a very good example of climate change in recent years. Another good example is in Beijing, where I come from. We haven't had a lot of rainfall. No, we have had a lot of rainfall over the past few years, but we haven't had much snow in the winter. I don't really know why. I guess maybe it has to do with global warming or, what people call climate change now. How do you think about living in the countryside? Well, I don't suppose I can give you a very good answer. to this question because I myself haven't lived in the countryside before. But I suppose, the first thing that comes to mind is that the pace of life there is generally much slower than that in the city because people are not under so much pressure. It's not like in a big city like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, where people really have to compete with other people to stand out, right? And so we're under so much pressure. Our pace of life is so fast every single day. And I mean, that is terrible. But in the countryside, I guess life is easier, generally speaking. And another benefit of living there is absolutely better air quality, right? There's so many trees and flowers, and they don't have that many factories that pollute the air. It's so different from big cities. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to give you the example of Beijing one more time. I was born and raised here, and generally I think this is a pretty good city. However, one big pressing problem is the air pollution. Especially in the winter, when I go somewhere, I have to wear a mask, which is awful. I don't like this. And maybe one day in the future, I will just move to the countryside. How much time should parents spend with their children every day? That's a very weird question. How much time? Well, I guess it probably depends on how old the child is. If it is just an infant, a toddler, then definitely parents have to spend with their kids for as long as possible, just 24/7, because their children, their kids, their very little kids need to be taken care of all the time, right? However, if it's just, primary school children, students, teenagers, then I don't suppose parents have to be with them like all the time. Maybe just a couple hours every single day so they can hang out together, chat with each other about what happened that day. Of course, this is a very good bonding opportunity. It helps to promote their relationship, so parents and children can feel really close with each other. But I don't suppose there's a limit or there's a number of hours that is set. That there has to be a number of hours that parents need to spend with their children every single day. How to teach elderly people new technology? How to teach old people new technology? Well, I'm not quite sure whether I should say this question is very difficult, but at least what I think is that it's really hard to teach senior citizens to learn new things, let alone new technology, which is very hard to pick up on. In English, there's an expression, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. I think that's the expression. I'm not very certain about it. But anyway, most people in their 60s or 70s, those who have retired, we call them senior citizens, elderly people, they have lived their entire lives doing the things that they're used to, doing the things that they're familiar with. So when we want to teach them some new things, maybe they will just feel reluctant to learn these things because they might feel like it's not entirely necessary to learn those things. So yeah, now that I think about it, if we want to teach old people new technology, the first thing we have to do is make them believe that it's necessary. Like, for example, if we want to teach our parents or grandparents how to use WeChat, which is the Chinese equivalent of WhatsApp, I suppose, it's just essential to tell them that this is the way to keep in touch with their grandchildren or their children. So they will want to learn because they always want to talk with their kids. In what ways does advertising influence people? I believe everybody is influenced to some extent by advertising because advertisements are just everywhere in today's world, right? They're on TV, on the internet, on posters, in subway stations, and shopping malls, and even in public bathrooms. So yeah, this is for sure that we're all affected by them, subconsciously, I would say. So yeah, if we see an ad like on TV, probably during a fascinating TV show, we do not really want to pay attention to it because most people don't like watching ads, commercials. But they see that like time and time again, it just gets embedded in our mind. So whenever we go shopping for a product of that particular kind, when we see this product that was advertised before on TV or on another platform, we might just naturally assume that this stands out. It's better in quality than other things, so we want to buy it. That's how advertising influences people. Internet and books, which can provide helpful learning materials. Internet and books, well, as far as I'm concerned, they are both very valuable in helping people learn a wide range of things, actually. And as for books, without a doubt, they are the most important source of information, right? Our human civilization has been handed down from generation to generation through books, through printed material, and that's for sure. But we shouldn't neglect the importance of the internet as well, because they do offer tons of valuable and precious learning materials. For example, the first thing that comes to mind right now is a website in China called Wang Yi Open Class or something like that. I'm sorry, the name is in Chinese. I just gave it a translation. So on this website, we have access to so many very good classes from prestigious universities, even well-known universities from the United States, the Great Britain, and Australia. So if people have a willing heart, they can definitely learn a wide range of things on this website. So yeah, I mean, what I think is that both internet and books are very good in helping people learn. Is having goals a good thing? Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt that having goals or dreams or aims or objectives, whatever you want to call it, is extremely important for the development of anybody, no matter what they want to do, right? Let's say that you want to learn Chinese, you want to be able to speak Chinese like a native Chinese speaker, then if you have this goal, and if you really want to achieve it in the long term, then I believe you will take steps, right? You will really need to take action rather than just sitting back and letting everything happen, because it's never going to happen. So maybe your plan is that maybe today you want to learn 50 Chinese characters and you want to learn how to say them and also how to write them. So right after getting up, you set out learning them. And that just, step one leads to step two. Without step one, there's going to be nothing. So, and that all derives from the goal you have in the first place. Is it a good thing that everyone has their own cars? No, I don't think so. This is the first thing that popped into my head when I heard your question. I mean, this is especially the case in my country, where we already suffer from so many traffic problems. For example, in my hometown, Beijing, well, we are haunted by traffic congestion. No matter where you go, you're very likely to be caught up in traffic for a long time. And this is even the case when many people take public transportation on a daily basis now. So if everyone had their own cars, then many of them would be driving them to work, to other places, then that would add to the problem of traffic congestion. The traffic would be a lot worse than it is now. So I don't really think that would be a positive thing. Is it necessary for parents to read stories to their children? Yeah, I think so. Well, I believe it's essential that parents read stories to their kids. For example, they can read bedtime stories every day. And I suppose this is mainly because it's a good way for children to develop their imagination. When they listen, they think and imagine stuff, so they can become more imaginative and creative, and it's crucial for children, I think. When I was a kid, my favorite activity was when my mom read me bedtime stories, and I suppose that made me a more imaginative person. So now I just really want to be a novelist in the future. And I believe because of the imagination I developed over the years, I can do a good job at becoming and being a novelist. Should big companies be punished more seriously if they break the law? Yeah. I mean, off the top of my head, I think the answer should be a resounding yes. Because no matter what a big company does, they're actually setting examples to other smaller companies in the same field. And if they do something good, smaller companies will learn from them. If they do something bad, others will follow suit. So, I mean, if they break the law, if they do something negative, they just have to be punished more seriously, so that sends a very clear message to other players in the field that you should never break the law, right? So this is extremely important. Let me think of an example here. Let's take Alibaba, one of the biggest companies in China, which was founded by Jack Ma, the wealthiest person in my country. I'm not saying that Alibaba has done something bad before. I don't really know, but if they break the law today and avoid being punished by the law, or if they're only punished really lightly, then the whole industry will be chaotic because other people will say, hey, they're not punished that seriously. We are going to do the same thing. Maybe we will be avoid punished because we're smaller. So that's not good, right? That's going to create a big problem for the whole industry. Should children learn to play musical instruments? Yeah, I believe so. What I think is that learning and playing musical instruments is quite beneficial to children, at least in the sense that it's a good way for them to unwind. This is especially important in my country because most children have a lot of schoolwork to do and are therefore under a great amount of pressure. So I think that playing an instrument helps them reduce stress. So, for example, suppose that a child has been studying for 2 hours and is feeling very tired and stressed. If they can stop and go to play the guitar or the piano for a while, then I think it's certainly very relaxing. And when they go back to studying, they can study even more effectively. Should children make decisions on their own? No, absolutely not. Well, actually, I'm not suggesting that children should let their parents make decisions completely for them because children are human beings too, right? Although they're very young, they're only 4 or 5 or 6 years old, they shouldn't try to think about things by themselves too. But they shouldn't do it completely on their own because they haven't received sufficient education so that they can make informed decisions. So when they're trying to decide on something, they need the assistance from their parents in order for them to make good decisions rather than go wrong completely. Should parents force their children to learn to play musical instruments? Well, obviously not. I mean, parents should never force children to learn anything. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. So sorry. I suppose if it's Chinese, math, English, these are all compulsory subjects that every kid has to learn in school, right? If children don't want to learn these things, they won't be able to get a very important education. This is the kind of education that everybody needs for them to survive in this world today, for them to be able to work with other people, to work in any workplace. However, in terms of musical instruments, I don't suppose it is the same thing. Some people are born to be musicians. They're just very good at playing some certain musical instruments after practicing for some time. But some people just, they just don't have a musical ear, so they are terrible at it. I don't think it's really good for these children to be forced by their parents to learn these things. It might just be a waste of time. They could, put in the time to learn something that they like, something that they are good at. That's a better use of their time. Shouldn't parks be built in cities? Yeah, why not? I believe there should be as many parks as possible in big cities, and this is because parks are great places where people relax, socialize, and take exercise. One good example is a very well-known park in Beijing, which is the Purple Bamboo Park. It's actually not very far from my home, and not only me, but many other residents living nearby like to go there every day and sing and dance and play Tai Chi and other sports. These activities enable people to live healthier lives and feel generally happier. So, yeah, I'd say because of this, parks are really important. Since most people do work on their computer, why do they still need to go to the office? That's a very interesting question, because I've thought about it before. What I think is that, well, as far as I'm concerned, people don't need to go to the office anymore because we can just work from home, right? We can even work remotely from home. Now, for example, I'm an English teacher, right? And I have some online classes. So basically, I don't really need to go to a physical class. I can teach anywhere in the world, even when I go on vacation, when I travel. Perhaps I'm in a different country, like if I'm in the United States. Of course, we have a time difference. But as long as I feel comfortable teaching at night, it's not a problem, right? It doesn't bother me. So what I believe is that people don't need to go to the office anymore unless they do manual work. But that said, if they do manual work, it's not the office where they work, it's probably a factory. Maybe that's not your question. What actions can be taken to reduce traffic congestion? That's a tough question, especially for me, because I'm from Beijing, the capital of China, and we're famous for having a lot of traffic jams every single day. Well, I suppose, in fact, our government has tried a lot of things. Like, for example, we have this lottery system, which means that not everybody can buy a car. They have to, first of all, put themselves in the lottery and then wait for their name to be picked. And then it allows them to go and buy a private car for themselves. And those people who haven't won the lottery will just have to wait. Some people have even waited for many years. Maybe it has worked to some extent. I'm not very sure. But I suppose maybe another thing can be done. I say this because I've read in the news that in London, they have a congestion charge scheme, which means that when a car is in the inner city, the driver has to pay a fine. So in this case, people really have to consider whether to drive to the inner city or take the public transport. And I suppose it really helps with the reduction of traffic congestion.